Evan.
Yeah, you know, if we have a former member of the board here spending time to speak to us, I think it's probably worthy for us just to at least, you know, have a little discussion about what his comments were and what you guys discussed in steering committee, just to kind of give us a primer for that. And is there any precedent anywhere out in the agencies around that have done similar contributions to cities, you know, when they take over some of their property tax generating parcels? So I just curious if there's any of that. He alluded to Newport Beach. That is true. We did offer them some compensation for, you know, as a courtesy, you know, saying that we're respecting that we're taking over some of your land, and, you know, otherwise, at least in this specific instance, it was a well that we're going to be building on a vacant property, housing property. So no longer will they be receiving, you know, a property tax. We'll be taking over a house and building a well. So just, you know, I'd like to have a little discussion about it. And
So I can provide that recap. First, just while it's fresh, you commented on the Newport example. The nuance there, which is similar to what would have happened here at the OC headquarters, is that there was a permitting process, there was an actual impact. And so what's different about us purchasing this property is we're not changing the use, we're just buying the property. We don't actually need any permits to complete that transaction, whereas your well project, you will need some permits to be able to do that. And so there's a mechanism, and that's kind of the key term. And in the agenda report, there's conversation about that finding. In essence, is that there is no legal mechanism for us as an agency to essentially gift of public funds to arbitrarily or in some fashion create an economic impact either currently or in the future, and then to give that money to them. If we had, like we did in the case here, where we were going through a process, there were actual impacts and there was a mechanism through these fees or taxes to be able to pay them, we will absolutely do that all day long if there's an opportunity. So as far as the conversation in steering committee, we were all sympathetic to this. We all serve in elected positions. We understand the challenges of increasing costs and reducing revenue. And the problem, though, that we have for this is one, the legal piece of this. And we could spend time trying to navigate how we can legally give this money to the city of Fountain Valley, but it does create a larger challenge, which is that we own facilities everywhere. Huntington Beach is also a host facility. Costa Mesa borders on two of our treatment plants. Not only that, but City of Newport. We just bought property in the City of Newport for our Bay Bridge pump station. Do we now need to calculate the economic impacts of that? What if we do a pipeline in the City of Orange and we have to shut down a business for 8 hours? Do we calculate the sales tax revenue that's lost by that as well as the business revenue? It's a very complicated, slippery slope when we open the door to things that aren't legal nor clearly defined. And so we had a lot of conversation in steering committee, and we heard from all of the steering committee, and it was unanimous that in this case, we just can't see a legal avenue to be able to provide this money, but we absolutely want to be a good partner. And we encouraged, we had the city manager from Fountain Valley there, we encouraged them that if there are opportunities that we have a mechanism to support our host city in any place that we have a facility, we want to explore that. And it's the reason that when we do projects in any of our cities, we are making sure that we leave the roads, I'm gonna say in the same condition, but it's better. We are doing much more than is typically required because we are trying to work with them, but in that case, we have a legal mechanism to do that. So that's a lot I covered, but there was a lot that we covered in steering. And so if anyone from steering wants to add to that or modify that, I think, yes.
The only thing I would add, Mr. Chairman, is I think there is a definite point of view that the city, the door is not closed.
Right.
We adopt this policy tonight, but the door is open to the city if they feel there's a specific impact on the city, there's a nexus, something that we're doing causing them additional cost or whatever that needs to be mitigated. The door is open and they should feel free to come and present their case and sit down with our staff, and where appropriate, we'll work with them. Nothing is foreclosed by adoption of this policy.
Director Mayor?
I just feel there's a reciprocal benefit to the two agencies, and I think that that's just being the community that we should be to each other.
Director Merrick?
Yes, I think, I just want to highlight that this is a policy that, yes, it did come about because of the recent property acquisition, but it is not actually specific to this one city, right? So as a part of that conversation, we realized that we do need a policy, and you know, our chair has alluded to that. We have a lot of different properties of different scales, and this is also very specific to potential loss of revenue, including sales tax, property tax, economic opportunity. Those really are things that we can't quantify with a specific number versus a development impact fee or an impact that we can really quantify. So I think it's just important to note this isn't just for Fountain Valley. This is really us setting a policy, and a future board could change that policy. But we are really looking from a legal perspective, there isn't a way to be very specific in a potential loss of revenue. So in doing or trying to do something like that, I think we would be putting ourselves at some legal risk. So it doesn't mean, as we've already heard, that there isn't opportunity for development impact fees, other things, other ways to partner. This is a very specific policy recommendation.
That's a good point. Director Bui?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may, to add to the point, first of all, we appreciate the support from the city of Newport Beach, and we're here for their contribution to the city, but there's quite a difference in here between them and OCSAN. Of course, I have to put my hat on the OCSAN board of director, as well as the interest of the city of Fountain Valley. But I see a very distinguished difference. The difference is OCSAN, when you acquire this property, yes, the city will lose potential sales tax in addition to property tax. However, hopefully we'll gain employment, right? We have employment. OCSAN will hire a lot of people, and in return, those staff will shop and dine in Fountain Valley. That's their exchange. Versus Newport Beach, it's just a facility. I'm not sure there's going to be someone there 24 hours. It's just a machine that's running. So we don't get anything out of that. So I appreciate their contribution on that aspect. And to your point earlier, Mr. Chair, you mentioned is, my big concern is, let's say for the goodwill, being a good partner with Fountain Valley, my question would be, put on the thinking hat for OCSAN, okay, do we have a statutory authority that allow us to make the difference in, I think the argument my colleague was property tax and sales tax. There's no statute. So that's I'm in Commissioner Chair Christine, there's no mechanism for us. So I think that could put us in the bind. So that's the two differences I see.
Thank you. That was, anything else to add from steering, or there, yes?
I just want to clarify the loss of property tax. So does that mean that OCSAN is exempt from paying property tax when they acquire real property?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Director Lindsay.
If you'd be willing, and you think it's appropriate, I would like to hear our council opine on the notion of no legal mechanism to do such a thing.
Sure. I think he can expound on what was in the agenda report.
Sure, we've consulted with staff quite a bit on that. Thanks for this opportunity. I think there are two main considerations here. One is that we're talking about loss of property tax in the draft policy that's before you, not about mitigating impacts of projects, not about fair share contribution to public infrastructure. And so both of those were elements of the agreement with Fountain Valley relating to the premises that we're in, mitigation and then fair share contribution to infrastructure. This agency has the authority, you're not obligated to do that, but you have the authority to do that. But the second important facet is that this district is a limited purpose district. Its charter and principal act are very narrow. And unlike cities, unlike the county, your charter does not include the ability to look at economic development, neighborhood stabilization, and kind of broader policy considerations that general purpose agencies do. So it was based on those two facets that your charter is very narrow, and that stabilizing revenue streams to a host agency is not within your charter per se. That in this occasion where you're talking about a rebate or a gross up of property tax, I think that's beyond your charter. Mitigating fair share contribution toward impacts is something else. And I think from the not to speak for the steering committee, but keeping those doors open case by case as you go forward, being generous in how you repave streets, that's within your authority.
Thank you. Does that, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to share that I appreciate the dialogue that's taken place here today, and I hear the sentiment of the residents of Fountain Valley and their desires, but I fully concur with our legal counsel. It sets a precedent that would be too challenging for OCSAN to take on. But I think that there can be a commitment to community benefits and to us working with perhaps an example, Fountain Valley with, if we're expanding and we're creating this new, building, and maybe we can have a commitment to hiring local, residents. Maybe there could be a commitment to hiring veterans from the Fountain Valley community. And I think those are some ways that we can commit to helping this community in an area where, we're not having to have any issues with public gifts, but we can have a commitment to community benefits. So that'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Director Chafee.
Yes, property tax is shared by many agencies. Not just a city that is impacted. It varies a lot. County gets 5%. Some cities in Fullerton, we got 17% at one time. And the biggest beneficiary of property tax are schools here. So if we start looking at some type of compensation for property taxes, then I think it needs to be broad, because there are a lot of different agencies that are impacted. I really like the concept here that my colleague Jonathan just expressed. I like that community benefit and working closely with the community in which we're located.
And I do want to outline, I don't want this to get lost, is that we did work with the city. Glenn, while he was on the board, asked that we not look at the location we were looking at for various reasons, that this was planned for redevelopment. We actually, if you guys remember, we moved the warehouse location. We were trying to be a partner. And as far as benefits to the community, this is a big facility. They shop, they dine, they get gas. It's gonna happen within a few miles of this radius. So there is an impact. And I don't know if you guys remember, but every 2 years we do a very large open house. We don't have free In-N-Out hamburgers, but it's a huge event that opens up to the community, including Fountain Valley. And so we are always trying to be partners with our local community. And so yeah, maybe free hamburgers next time, I think. That's what we're going for. All right. Is there any other comments? Yes.
Just to go full circle, and I appreciate steering committee and the update that you provided and good back and forth. I think it was important that we have this and pull this off consent. We do a lot of these things pretty routine. So
Yeah.
having a former director here, you're bringing up some key points. I think it's very good that we engage on this. So I'm appreciative of that. Thank you.
Any other engagement?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Thank you. That completes the steering. Thank you, Glenn. Yes. That completes steering committee. We'll move to non-consent. We have item number 10, and for this, I'll call upon Director of Finance, Wally Ritchie.